All right, so how do you really make sure an exam is fair and secure when it's being taken from 1,000 different dorm rooms, coffee shops, and kitchens? That is one of the biggest questions in modern education. In this explainer, we're diving into an article from the Qorrect blog that gets right to the heart of this very digital dilemma.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll set the stage with the core problem, the dilemma itself. Then, we're going to look at the very real threats to online exams. After that, we'll walk through the playbook for what a secure platform should look like and see how AI is totally changing the game. And finally, we'll check out a case study that's presented in the source material.
So let's start with the big picture. Education has moved online at, lightning speed. And with that shift, the very credibility of how we test and measure what students have learned is, well, it's on the line.
The source article gets straight to the point. This is not just about stopping a few students from cheating. No, it's way bigger than that. It's about protecting the entire reputation and the trustworthiness of a university. I mean, think about it. If you can't trust the exam results, what good is the degree?
And this right here is the million-dollar question that's driving this whole conversation. The traditional exam hall with proctors walking the aisles, that's gone. So what do you replace it with? This one question really sets the stage for all the specific threats that schools are now up against.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the threats themselves. According to the source, this isn't about solving one single problem. It's more like a multi-front battle against some pretty clever and sophisticated ways to compromise an exam. But before we even get into the how, the article really hammers home why this matters so much. It all comes down to these 5 pillars. You're not just stopping cheating, you're protecting integrity, making sure evaluations are actually accurate, building trust in the institution, keeping student data safe, and, making sure this whole digital transformation thing actually works. The article makes it super clear that even if you have a platform that's supposedly secure, vulnerabilities can still exist. So let's break down some of the most common headaches that institutions are trying to solve right now. First up, we've got a classic, impersonation. How do you actually know that the person behind the keyboard is the student who's supposed to be taking the test? Without a proctor physically checking an ID, this is a massive vulnerability. All right, next is protecting the exam itself. Because the second someone takes a screenshot of the questions and shares them online, game over. The entire assessment is worthless for every single student who takes it after that. The value just evaporates. Then you have the challenge of what is basically a digital open book exam, whether you want it to be or not. How do you stop someone from having a second monitor with all their notes, or their phone just out of frame to text a friend, or, just another browser tab open to Google? It's all about controlling that virtual space. And finally, the source points to the straight-up technical threats. We're talking about actual hacking, malicious attacks trying to breach the system, steal sensitive student info, or, and this is the scary part, directly change exam results and grades.
So that all sounds pretty daunting, right? How in the world do you fight back against all of that? Well, the article lays out a really clear playbook, basically a checklist of must-have features for any secure testing system.
And here it is. The source presents these 7 steps as totally non-negotiable. You start with the basics, like advanced authentication and data encryption. Then you get smarter about the exam design itself, with things like randomized question banks and tight controls on time and access. And then you layer on real-time monitoring through analytics and active anti-cheating tools. It's like a defense-in-depth strategy.
So once you have that solid foundation in place, this is where the article says things get really interesting. It introduces artificial intelligence as the true game-changing next layer of security. And we're not talking about some minor feature. This is a total revolution in how exams are monitored.
This quote from the source really captures that shift in thinking. AI isn't just another tool in the toolbox anymore. It's becoming the actual cornerstone of the entire security system for online exams, and it's fundamentally changing the old way of doing things.
And this comparison just lays it out so clearly. On the one hand, you have human proctoring. It's great, but it's hard to scale, and let's be honest, it can be subjective. But then you look at AI-powered proctoring. It brings real-time behavior detection, it analyzes patterns objectively, and it sends automated alerts. The whole idea is to make monitoring smarter, faster, and way more scalable.
Now, for the sake of being thorough, we've got to talk about the final part of the article. This is where the author presents their own platform, Qorrect, as a case study to show how these ideas can be put into practice. So it's really important to note that we're simply presenting their claims, just as they're laid out in the source.
So what this table does is it maps the security problems we've been talking about directly to the features their platform claims to offer. So, for example, to solve identity verification, they point to their facial recognition tools. To handle environment control, they talk about browser lockdown. You can see how they're trying to connect each problem to a specific, tangible solution. So, after all that, what's the big takeaway here? The message from the source is crystal clear. There's no single silver bullet. A truly secure online exam platform has to be this comprehensive, multi-layered system. It's got to have a strong foundation of security features combined with the advanced, intelligent monitoring that AI can provide.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If artificial intelligence is becoming the new, super strong lock that protects academic integrity, well, you can bet someone, somewhere, is already working on building a better key. It creates this constant cat-and-mouse game, an endless cycle of innovation on both sides, all in the pursuit of keeping education fair and honest.